Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. These powerful words from Carl Jung remind us that much of what shapes our identity may lie beneath the surface of our awareness. Imagine going about your daily life, certain that you know who you are, yet still feeling an unexplainable sense of frustration or disconnection. Perhaps you're trapped in repetitive cycles that keep you from embracing who you truly want to become. Today we'll embark on an eye-opening exploration of Jung's concept of the collective unconscious and see if understanding this hidden layer of the psyche might unlock those stubborn identity blocks holding so many of us back. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you're passionate about diving deeper into the mysteries of psychology and personal growth. It's a simple way to ensure you stay connected to insights that could spark the transformations you've been seeking. Many of us believe that our identities are entirely self-generated, shaped by personal choices, upbringing, and a handful of life experiences. But Jung introduced a radical idea that there's a vast, shared reservoir of knowledge and instinctual patterns inherited from our ancestors, a collective unconscious we all tap into, whether we're aware of it or not. The very suggestion that our individual struggles and hidden fears might not be exclusively our own can feel both unsettling and liberating. Are our private anxieties, repetitive relationship patterns, or unexplainable urges really ours alone? Or are they echoes of timeless human experiences running like an undercurrent through everyone's psyche? Traditional thinking emphasizes self-help solutions that rely solely on personal willpower. Just change your mindset and everything will fall into place. But what if the difficulties we face run deeper than that, rooted in archaic psychological structures shared by humanity? If something deep inside is orchestrating our emotional responses and life decisions, it might take more than motivational quotes to break free from constraining identities. Could tapping into the collective unconscious be the key to unraveling our personal blocks? Could these inherited patterns, far from being a limitation, actually become a pathway for growth once we learn to recognize and work with them? Let's begin by breaking down what the collective unconscious truly is and why it might be affecting your sense of self in ways you've never expected. By the end of our journey today, you might look at your identity challenges from a completely new perspective, one that shows you're not alone in your struggles and that there's a source of wisdom deep within, ready to guide you. As we analyze these ideas step by step, keep an open mind, stay curious, and let's see if Jung's vision resonates with your own life experiences. According to Carl Jung, the psyche isn't just your conscious mind or even your personal unconscious, those forgotten memories, repressed feelings, and subliminal impressions unique to you. Beyond that lies a collective unconscious, an inherited foundation of universal patterns or archetypes that reflect the shared legacy of humankind. Unlike your personal unconscious formed by individual events, the collective unconscious consists of deep-rooted predispositions we all possess. It's like a cosmic library, or perhaps a vast subterranean ocean, holding the myths, instincts, and symbolic imagery that have guided human behavior across millennia. You might wonder how such an intangible concept can be recognized in everyday life. If you've ever found yourself unexpectedly identifying with an ancient myth or resonating with a fairy tale character you've never encountered before, you could be experiencing an echo from that collective realm. Why does this matter if you're dealing with identity issues today? Because ironically, one way to better understand yourself is to acknowledge that your mind isn't entirely your own personal creation. We are each shaped by archetypal patterns that color our emotional responses and our sense of meaning. These archetypes, such as the mother, the hero, the wise old man, or the trickster, are symbolic figures representing universal themes. You might find yourself drawn to hero stories whenever you feel powerless, or you might experience maternal archetypal energies in your relationships, sometimes nurturing, sometimes overbearing. Though these figures can guide you, they can also trap you if you remain unconscious of their influence. People often mistake archetypal impulses for personal flaws or random obsessions, when in fact these impulses connect them to shared, age-old psychological themes. Consider a professional in her mid-30s who keeps sabotaging her success by missing deadlines or making impulsive decisions right before a major project's completion. On the surface, it looks like fear of success or poor self-control, but delving deeper, she might discover she's replaying a time-worn narrative of the trickster archetype, unconsciously undermining her progress for reasons she can't easily explain. Or think of someone drawn to relationships with a damsel in distress, repeatedly compelled to step in as a rescuer. He may be living out the hero archetype in a way that places his identity on precarious ground, always seeking validation through saving others rather than addressing his own vulnerabilities. When these archetypal influences remain hidden, they can manifest as identity blocks, repeating cycles, entrenched fears, or seemingly senseless conflicts that defy resolution. A common reaction is to blame ourselves or external circumstances, but from a Jungian perspective, the root might lie in a powerful, unconscious pattern echoing through your life. This is an aha moment for many, the realization that perhaps these blocks aren't exclusively personal failings. They're also manifestations of universal human dynamics filtering through our individual psychology. By analyzing and recognizing these patterns, we gain a blueprint to transform them rather than remain victims of them. That's the promise of Jung's theory of the collective unconscious, that the universal realm of archetypes can become a profound source of insight and empowerment. As you absorb this idea, reflect for a moment. What if some of your recurring life challenges stem from inherited patterns far older than you? Do those myths, legends, or even cultural stories you've enjoyed since childhood hold keys to your inner struggles? Realizing that we're all connected to these ancient psychological currents can make us feel less isolated in our modern struggles. Think about how you might be participating in a hero's journey, or how you might be trapped in a cyclical trickster narrative. Once you see these patterns for what they are, you can begin to unravel their hold. Still, identifying these archetypes is only the first part. We need to dig deeper into how the collective unconscious can shape our sense of identity, for better or for worse. One of Jung's well-known ideas is the persona, the social mask we wear to protect our deeper self, and the shadow, those aspects we reject or deem unacceptable. Both are intimately linked to the collective unconscious. The persona is formed not only from personal choices, but also from cultural norms, historical pressures, and archetypal expectations of how a proper person should behave. Meanwhile, the shadow often contains repressed impulses that might have been frowned upon by society for generations, thus subconsciously passed down and reinforced. Imagine a teenager feeling pressured to conform. She might craft a flawless online presence to please others. Though we'd often pin that on social media influences, there's a timeless element here. She's unconsciously responding to a collective expectation of what a respectable young person looks like. The danger is when the persona becomes so rigid that she loses touch with her authentic self. And then there's her hidden shadow, brimming with creativity or rage or a powerful voice that she fears would be unacceptable. This push-pull dynamic between inherited archetypal roles and personal self-expression can lead to identity crises. Another real-world example, a man in his 40s who's always felt ashamed of his sensitivity. Maybe his family for generations valued stoicism and control. This ancestral script, echoing an archetypal pattern of the strong patriarch, shaped the collective environment. So his gentle side got shoved into the shadow. He grows up believing sensitivity is a flaw, never realizing it might be the gateway to empathy, leadership, and deep connection. Over time, such suppression can result in depression or chronic anxiety, all because an archetypal expectation overshadowed his unique identity. When we analyze the situation from a Jungian lens, we see how the collective unconscious and its archetypes don't merely influence us abstractly. They can drastically shape our everyday emotional lives, relationships, and personal sense of worth. For many people, discovering the collective unconscious is a moment of clarity. You realize you've inherited certain default scripts from humanity's shared past. Scripts that either assist your growth or stifle it. That's an enormous revelation. You're not flawed for having these urges or fears, but you do have a responsibility to become conscious of them. By studying these universal patterns, we learn to differentiate what's truly personal from what's collectively inherited. This differentiation is key to resolving those identity blocks that never seem to budge, no matter how many self-help books we read. Of course, theory alone doesn't fix identity challenges. We have to apply Jung's insights in practical ways that integrate them into everyday life. One powerful application is dream analysis. Jung believed dreams are a direct window into the unconscious, often carrying messages not just from our personal history, but also from deeper archetypal layers. If you consistently dream about journeys or battles, you might be wrestling with the hero archetype. Dreams about nurturing or abandonment might echo the mother archetype. Recognizing these patterns can guide you to see what your psyche is trying to communicate. And this is not just about interpreting dream symbols literally, it's about asking, how do these symbols relate to universal human experiences, and what might they reveal about my hidden conflicts? Another tool is reflective journaling, especially when exploring cultural stories, myths, or fairy tales you resonate with. Write about the moments in these stories that stir your emotions. Ask yourself, why does this specific moment, character, or plot twist strike me so powerfully? You might discover an archetypal connection that sheds light on a personal issue. Maybe the rebellious trickster character always appealed to you because you long to break free from suffocating rules in your own life. Or perhaps the wise mentor figure resonates because a part of you yearns for guidance and self-mastery. Such reflections bring the collective unconscious to the surface, allowing you to untangle identity knots that might otherwise remain unconscious and therefore unaddressed. Group therapy or discussion circles can also be transformative. Sharing personal experiences and listening to others can reveal just how universal certain struggles are. You may realize that the dreams and narratives that once felt so private are, in fact, variations of timeless human stories. This collective sharing often relieves shame and loneliness. Moreover, hearing your story mirrored in someone else's experience can trigger an aha moment. You recognize you're part of something larger, which can be both humbling and empowering. In unearthing the universal patterns behind our personal problems, we begin to see solutions that are accessible to all. But these processes require honesty and courage. The collective unconscious doesn't just present pleasant archetypes. There are also darker, more challenging aspects. Jung never shied away from the fact that acknowledging our shared darker side or shadow is crucial for wholeness. If we ignore or demonize it, we might miss out on the transformative power it offers. Sometimes your deepest fears or unacceptable impulses hide a wellspring of unclaimed energy, creativity, or authenticity. Consider the person who struggles with chronic anger. They might fear that acknowledging this anger will destroy their relationships. But once they confront it, they could discover healthy assertiveness and boundaries, reclaiming self-respect that has been missing for years. In many cases, the collective unconscious is like a treasure chest hidden behind a dragon. Facing the dragon is the price we pay to access the jewels inside. How does this all tie back to the question of identity blocks? We often define identity in terms of our personal biography. I'm this old from this place with these experiences. Yet Jung's perspective suggests identity is shaped by a far more extensive tapestry: cultural myths, ancestral fears, inherited archetypes. That tapestry can both entangle and guide us. If we remain oblivious to its existence, we may get stuck, repeating patterns that feel like fate. However, by analyzing and understanding these patterns, we free ourselves to carve a more authentic path. This shift in perspective, recognizing the collective dimension, sparks a transformation possibility. Your personal struggles are neither accidental nor insurmountable. They might be your invitation to grow beyond the unconscious patterns you inherited. One powerful metaphor that captures this notion is the image of the sea. Each of us is like a wave, unique in form and movement. Yet we're also part of the vast ocean of humanity. We rise, crest, and fall, each wave seemingly individual, but formed by currents and tides that operate on a global scale. If a wave tried to solve its problems without recognizing it's part of the ocean, it might always feel trapped by forces beyond its comprehension. The moment it realizes it's connected to something immense, it gains a new perspective. I am shaped by larger rhythms, but I can also express my distinct existence. In this way, acknowledging our link to the collective unconscious can help us see we're not merely at the mercy of unknown powers. We can participate in shaping our destiny by engaging our deeper selves. This naturally leads us to reflect on practical steps. First, become a student of your own patterns. Notice repetitive themes in your relationships, career, or emotional life. Do you always play the caretaker, the rebel, the underdog, or the victim? Might these roles be connected to an archetypal storyline? Understanding that you're living out universal narratives can provide much-needed detachment, allowing you to make more conscious choices. Second, explore your dreams. Even if you rarely remember them, try jotting down whatever fragments you recall. Over time, you might notice patterns or symbols that recur, hinting at the archetypal energies at work within you. And third, connect with others in meaningful dialogue. You'll find that when you share your story, you're not as alone as you think. There's a collective dimension to every personal struggle. Around the midpoint of our discussion, I want to pause and remind you, if you find these insights valuable, consider supporting this channel by liking the video or leaving a comment about your own experiences. Your interactions help this community grow, enabling more people to discover how profound Jung's ideas can be for personal and collective transformation. As you continue this introspective journey, a question arises. If my identity is partly shaped by universal patterns, how do I maintain my individuality? The beauty is that recognizing the collective dimension doesn't erase your uniqueness. Instead, it enriches your self-understanding. You are an individual wave with your own life context and personal unconscious layers, but you're also participating in the grand ocean of humanity's psyche. Merging these perspectives can lead to a sense of depth and wholeness. Instead of feeling overwhelmed or helpless, you can tap into archetypal strength while honoring your personal story. In fact, the more you're aware of universal patterns, the more precise and deliberate your individual choices can become. To illustrate, think of a young parent who feels inexplicably anxious every time her child grows more independent. She might read psychology blogs that say it's normal separation anxiety or an overprotective streak, but there's something deeper stirring, a universal parental archetype built upon centuries of ensuring a child's survival in a far more dangerous world. That inherited fear can magnify her personal anxieties. Recognizing it as a universal theme of parental vigilance changes her perspective. She can say to herself, yes, this is bigger than me. Humans have wrestled with the fear of losing children for ages. I don't need to see this as a personal failing. I can understand it, honor it, and then choose to loosen my grip, trusting that my child is safe in this modern context. This approach merges universal wisdom with individual growth. There's a corollary realization. The collective unconscious isn't just about fears or constraints. It's also a wellspring of creativity, inspiration, and connection. The same primordial reservoir that gives rise to nightmares and anxieties also inspires our greatest works of art, spiritual revelations, and moments of transcendence. Throughout history, creators have drawn upon archetypal imagery. Just think of how many cultures, separated by oceans and centuries, develop similar mythological creatures or sacred symbols. Tapping into that realm can invigorate your creativity and sense of purpose. If you've ever felt an inexplicable yearning to express something you can't quite articulate, it might be that the collective unconscious is nudging you to bring forth something universal in a new personal form. That realization can be an electrifying aha moment. You're a conduit for timeless motifs, and in giving them contemporary shape, you contribute to the ongoing human story. To integrate all this into everyday life, here are a few more practical steps. First, consider reading some of Jung's more accessible works or modern interpretations that demystify his theories. This helps you name and recognize archetypes more readily. Second, create a small group, perhaps friends or colleagues also interested in depth psychology, and discuss shared experiences, dreams, or creative projects. You'll be amazed at how quickly universal themes emerge once you have a safe space for open, judgment-free dialogue. Third, spend quiet time in nature or meditative practice if possible. The hustle and bustle of modern life can drown out the subtle voices of the unconscious. Slowing down and intentionally being present can open a doorway to deeper insights. Let's also acknowledge the reflection points that can guide your own self-examination. What unconscious scripts might be directing your life right now? Where might you see glimpses of an archetypal pattern in your daily thoughts or interactions? Are there stories, myths, novels, films that resonate so profoundly you almost feel they were written for you? Those deep resonances are often signs of an archetypal connection, a clue that you're being called to discover something about your identity or potential. By following these clues with curiosity, you may unlock hidden dimensions of yourself that have been yearning to come into the light. Now that we've explored how to identify and work with the collective unconscious, let's summarize the core transformation possibility. Becoming aware of these shared psychological currents can free you from repeating unconscious patterns. You don't have to keep replaying the same story. You can consciously choose to rewrite the narrative, merging personal and collective wisdom into a more integrated sense of self. A single shift in awareness can break down the wall of isolation, proving that your struggles are part of a human legacy. And that knowledge can be enormously empowering. No longer do you feel like your challenges are personal deficiencies, but rather invitations to grow in a way that resonates with universal truths. As we come to our closing thoughts, let's gather the key insights. You've learned that Jung's collective unconscious is a shared reservoir of archetypes. These archetypes shape our psychological patterns, sometimes helping us grow, other times contributing to identity blocks that seem insurmountable. Recognizing their influence can spark profound transformations, enabling us to see our struggles in a new light. By taking practical steps, analyzing dreams, journaling, discussing themes in a group, and studying archetypal narratives, we can bring the unconscious into conscious awareness, liberating ourselves from repetitive cycles. That process unearths hidden strengths and clarifies our unique path forward. So how can you apply these insights to your life starting today? Begin by observing repetitive patterns with fresh eyes. Instead of labeling them good or bad, ask, which archetypal influence might be at play here? Dive into your nighttime dreams, even if they're murky. Look for symbols that might appear silly at first glance. Animals, mythic creatures, strange landscapes. Note any emotional charge. Use these discoveries as gateways to deeper self-knowledge. And don't underestimate the power of community. Seek out conversations about Jung's theories, archetypes, and the collective unconscious. You'll quickly see that your private battles often mirror those faced by countless others, proving just how universal the human experience really is. Finally, I'd like to invite you to join our community if you haven't already. Your experiences, comments, and questions help all of us learn and grow. Let us know down below. Have you ever felt guided or maybe even haunted by a pattern that you suspect is more than just personal? Share your story and let's explore these themes together. Remember, discovering that we're not alone in our struggles is one of the most healing realizations. By shining light on these shared undercurrents, we can collectively transform how we see ourselves and each other.